In this module, we are going to discuss what is called prompt priming within an LLM, in this case, ChatGPT. Now, there are different methods in order to start doing prompt priming within ChatGPT, but the method I like doing involves 4 phases, or you can also refer to these phases as levels. So you don't necessarily have to go through each one of these phases every single time, but if you want a better response, then you can work all the way up to that phase 4. Let's dive into the whiteboard so I can show you a little bit more what I'm talking about when I'm referring to these phases within ChatGPT prompt priming. So as you can see, we have some prompt priming phases and examples here, all typed out, ready to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each phase and show you how when you start adding more information and start priming your prompts as you're going through these phases, you can get closer to the answer and the result that you're actually looking for within ChatGPT. So let's jump right into it. Phase 1, we have a mission/basic prompt. So this is referring back to one of the very first modules within beginner prompting when we just would write out a simple command or a question. Right here we have, write me a cold email selling website design to a person in landscaping. So this is a pretty vague input for ChatGPT, and I'm sure it would do a fine job at writing a cold email selling website design, but there's not much backbone to this input here. So now I have this all typed out here in ChatGPT. Write me a cold email selling website design to a person in landscaping. And right now we don't have much context. All ChatGPT knows is that it's selling web design to a person in landscaping, and it has to write a cold email doing so. So I'm going to send off the message. And as you can see, after we send off that message, it does a very good job at writing a cold email to this landscaping company. But as of right now, there's zero personalization to this prompt. You are writing a basic input, and you are telling ChatGPT to write a cold email selling website design. So how do you actually get that style that you're looking for and replicate what's already working within your cold email campaigns? I'm going to get to that in a second. Real fast, I did want to note that I am using this cold email example, but you don't have to use this for cold emails. I've seen people use this prompt priming method for stand-up comedy routines and many other things. So I'm just showing you how to do this with cold emails right now because I believe this is a little bit more of a difficult prompt priming task. So after watching this and after studying this and trying it out for yourself, you'll be prepared to put in any problem or any mission that you are trying to accomplish in this prompt priming formula. So now we have completed phase 1 where we give our mission and basic prompt. So this is kind of our overall goal, is we want a cold email and we want it to be good to sell to somebody in landscaping. So as I said just before, your mission doesn't have to be cold emails when using prompt priming. It can be whatever you want. Just apply the same formula that I'm showing you in this example to your own content. Now let's move on to phase 2 of this system. So phase 2 is adding system functions. We've learned about system functions in the past. If you haven't watched that module, I highly recommend it. It's something simple that you can do in ChatGPT, but it provides stellar results. Just giving the chatbot a personality to act like can really change your output. So that's exactly what we're doing for phase 2. And I highly recommend that you don't just stick to doing phase 1 and calling it good, that you at least move on to phase 2 so you can add in that system function. The results will be much better and much more tailored to your audience. So what I've done is I've said, you are a professional email marketer. Now, this is giving ChatGPT that role as a professional email marketer. And instead of saying you are right here, it actually might be a little bit better to say act as. Sometimes ChatGPT might get a little bit confused and think I'm the professional email marketer when I actually want ChatGPT to act like a professional email marketer. So I can replace that you are with act as a professional email marketer. And also I've given it another role as someone who has 10 plus years of experience in website design. So this should equip ChatGPT with the knowledge, and it should prime ChatGPT to be geared in the focus of, okay, I'm a professional email marketer. What do professional email marketers do and say within their emails that gets results? And also, I have 10 plus years of experience in website design, so it's now equipped to properly write the emails in the form of an experienced web designer. Again, I could replace this you also with act like you have 10 plus years of experience in website design. And now that we've added the system function to the prompt, we just keep on writing the mission out here. So the mission pretty much just stays the same. I need you to write me a cold email selling website design to a potential client in the landscaping niche. So now we have a nice system function all ready to go. So we have our prompt down here: act as a professional email marketer. Act as if you also have 10 plus years of experience in website design. I need you to write me a cold email selling website design to a potential client in the landscaping niche. So we are being pretty specific here. We've given ChatGPT that system function instead of just providing the mission and a basic input. So now when we send this off, you'll notice that the cold email is a little bit better. So some things that I've noticed just by adding a system function is the formatting is a little bit different. We have dear client's name. I trust this message finds you well. And this is kind of entered down on new lines. Also, in this new version with the system function added, we have a nice spot where we can add a link. So it gives us a recommendation to put a portfolio link right here compared to right here where it just kind of gets into business and there isn't much trust building. So I would say after reading through all these, you can pause the video and read through at certain points if you would like and compare these two. I'll scroll up a little bit, but what you'll notice is that I think adding the system function actually did provide for a better email just as anticipated. So this is phase 2 of prompt priming. You know, you can prime your prompts by adding a system function and a mission combined with each other. But let's get into phase 3 where we add some context and some metrics. So now we are on to phase 3, adding context and metrics, and what I've done is in yellow, I've highlighted once again the system functions just as I had before. So you are a professional email marketer. You also have 10 plus years of experience in website design. Then I list my mission where I need a cold email selling website design to a potential client in the landscaping niche. But then we go in to add context with what has worked well in the past or a certain style that we like or anything that you're trying to mimic and put your own spin on. This phase 3 is where you are going to add that so ChatGPT understands what you like or what has worked well in the past. You can even add your own writing or your own routines or whatever it may be in this context spot, and ChatGPT can actually write in your style of writing. So right now I've put in an arbitrary cold email that has worked good for my fake company that I'm talking about in the past, okay? So let's say that this is a cold email that worked very well for my company, and I'm going to scroll down here, and what you'll notice is that at the bottom, after I've pasted in and formatted this email in the way that it worked well, I've told ChatGPT, this email has gotten a reply rate of 18%. So there I'm adding metrics to my context. So why do I want to use this email? Well, because it's gotten a reply rate of 18%, which for cold emails is actually pretty decent. And then I give ChatGPT my mission or objective. I would like to increase the reply rate to 22%. And then I just re-mention to write a cold email below that could help do so. So now ChatGPT has a system function that has a mission up here and down here. It needs to write a cold email to get a reply rate of 22%. And it also has context of what has worked well for the clients that I'm dealing with. So now what it's going to do is it's going to base its response off the context and email that you've given in your input. And once again, it doesn't just have to be an email. It can be a style of writing or literally anything that you are trying to accomplish. So you have to put your style in your context of what's worked well in the past or what you like in the context section here. So now I have that entire prompt typed out within ChatGPT here, system function, mission, context, and some metrics down here at the bottom with a goal of how I want to increase or change those metrics within ChatGPT. So now I'm going to send it off. And as you can see, it's a pretty large prompt here, but the more context you provide, as explained in Context and Concision, the better your prompts will be. So now what it's done is it's completely based this response off the context that I provided. So if you read both of the emails, what you're actually going to notice is that this new one here takes a lot of the elements in the structure from this original email that got good reply rate, and it's basically just changing some things in and out in order to try to increase that reply rate to 22%. Now for most ChatGPT users who use ChatGPT to get some work done, maybe they use it for some things in their personal life, this would be an okay stopping point. You know, you can use this and get some very good results just by using phase 3. But you purchased this course, and I know if you're watching this module that you probably want to go a little bit deeper into prompt priming and actually priming your prompt to its full potential. So that's why we are moving on to phase 4, which is a 3-part process. And real quick, before I just start diving in, I want to show you an overhead view of what each part means and what we are kind of doing within each part. So part 1 of phase 4 is where we analyze components of the email that performed well. Okay, so first, we aren't getting a response here that's going to generate us a new cold email. But what we're doing is we're getting key metrics from this email that made it perform so well. So we're going to get 5 or 6 good key metrics that go into creating a good cold email like this one. You know, why did this one perform so well? Well, this phase in part will tell us the components that went into making this cold email perform so well. I know I am repeating myself, but I want to get that point across, okay? So now when we move up from phase 4 part 1, where we analyze the components, once we have the components, we actually create a database of information for us to reference and use for our future cold emails. We're going to create a huge table with a bunch of information and data within ChatGPT that we can then copy and paste into part 3 of phase 4, which is where we actually use our database components that we generated with ChatGPT. Now, this might all sound super confusing, but I'm going to go through it step by step. So there's really going to be no room for confusion after you are done watching through phase 4. So as you can see, real quick, once more, we get the components, and then at the end of phase 4, we're actually using these components here: subject line, personalization, value proposition, call to actions, professional closing. We actually created a database to give us a bunch of subject lines, a bunch of personalization lines, a bunch of value propositions, call to actions, and professional closing lines that we can use now within our cold emails. And we can keep interchanging these out until we get the email we like. So this is great for split testing, whether that's any style of writing, ad copy, emails, routines, whatever it may be. But it all starts with phase 1, where we have to actually get the components that we're trying to look for that actually create good cold emails within ChatGPT. So what I have here is just like before. I have our system function, and then we have a new mission here. We say, I need you to analyze this cold email that had an 18% open rate. Break this email down into the 6 most important factors or components that went into making this email perform so well. Please explain these component parts in depth so you can easily use them for future cold emails. So this is pretty big. Right now, we are actually telling ChatGPT, instead of create us a new cold email, we're telling it to analyze why this email worked so well. And now we are going very far in depth. It's going to break it down step by step or component by component. So then right here, I'm providing the context of the email. And this one, we aren't adding anything at the bottom. I'm just providing that email there because I've told it to do everything up top here. So now let's head over to ChatGPT and actually get this pasted in, and let's find our components that made this email so well. I am doing all of this prompt priming on ChatGPT 4 just because it does require a little bit more advanced reasoning. And I found that ChatGPT 3.5 sometimes lacks the intelligence in order to actually produce the content needed for this prompt priming method. So now I have this prompt all reformatted here, and it's ready to send off and get to analyzing these components. So I'm going to send it off. And now ChatGPT won't generate me an email. It says this is a well-crafted email, and it's not surprising it has an 18% open rate. Let's dive into the 6 key factors that contribute to its effectiveness. So now, as you can see here, we have our big 6 components that go into making this email so well: customized subject line, personalization, relevance and value proposition, detailed proposal, confidence and invitation for collaboration, and professional tone and sign-off. Now, we are going to be breaking these elements down now into a table. So now we are going to be moving on to part 2. So now what I'm actually going to do is right-click my tab in the upper left-hand corner and hit duplicate. So now we have a fresh canvas for ChatGPT ready to start creating this database. So now we are in part 2 of phase 4, which is the database creation phase. So right now we are creating a side mission, if you would, and now we want ChatGPT to create a table breaking down these 5 important elements for writing a good cold email. And then these are actually the 5 elements that we generated in the previous step. So those 5 elements when we go back to ChatGPT are right here. So customized subject line, personalization, value proposition, collaboration, and tone and sign off. So now we have those reflected right here. So create a table breaking down these 5 important elements for writing a good cold email. We list all of our components that went into writing that good email. And now we have another mission here. We're going to continue with our mission. Make each element a column and fill out information for 10 rows to help me write better cold emails. And now you have to go into actually giving some context in order to make this database information relevant to your situation. So who is this cold email information for? Well, this cold email information provided should be curated for a professional website design company that produces websites for local service businesses. So now all of this information within the table is going to be relevant to my situation, and you can provide as much context as possible. So now I'm going to go over to ChatGPT and get this information in there. And the reason I opened a new tab is so that you can come in here and you can copy your components and paste them in very easily. I've shortened some of them, as you can see. So instead of customized subject line, I just put subject line. We have personalization, and then for relevance and value proposition, instead of adding relevance, because I think relevance ties into personalization, I just added value proposition, and so on down the list. I've also added call to actions because I do believe call to actions are very important within your cold emails, and I've replaced that with the component confidence and invitation for collaboration. And now we have everything in here ready to go. So what I can do is I can send this off, and ChatGPT is actually going to create a table to help us craft better cold emails. So this is kind of a database that we can come to, and we can input this information in part 3 of phase 4. So now we have a database full of information where we have a subject line, personalization, value proposition, call to actions, and professional closings. Now we can go through here and we have 10 different subject lines that we can split test. We have 10 different personalizations, 10 new value propositions, call to actions, and professional closings. So this is kind of going to be our database that we can copy and paste items in order to craft better cold emails. So these are all formed, if you remember, from the first cold email that actually worked well with the 18% reply rate. These responses are based off a cold email that has already worked well. So if you want a certain style in your writing, then make sure to input a style that's worked well in your writing in the context area in phase 3, or implement a style you like in order to get good results in this table. So now that we have this table created, it's actually time to go on to part 3, which is the last part of phase 4 in the prompt priming methodologies. So as you can see, we are really priming this prompt. We have a 3-step process in order to get to the answer we want. And it may seem like a lot of work up front, but the answers that you get and the customization that comes from doing this method, phase 4, really makes up for the time spent creating all of this. So step 1 of phase 4, part 3, is to just get ChatGPT to ingest the information and to really understand what you're talking about. So what we're going to do is we are going to tell ChatGPT right off the bat, I'm going to provide you with a cold email that got a reply rate of 18%. That's a little bit of context there. And now we have a mission. I am trying to increase my open rate to 22%. And it shouldn't say open rate right there. It should actually say reply rate. Now I'm giving ChatGPT another mission. After you have read the cold email that performed well and have ingested the information properly, respond with yes and nothing else. Then we will move on to the next step. So this is step 1 of phase 4, part 3. And then what we've done here, once again, is we've provided the cold email that's worked well. And since we told ChatGPT just to respond with yes and nothing else, if it has ingested the information properly, as you can see, ChatGPT just responded with yes. So this is part 1, and right now we are going to head over to ChatGPT and complete part 1 live. So I'm not closing out of this tab that I have the table open in. What I'm doing is I'm actually going to that other tab that we created with all of these customized components, and I'm going to hit new chat, making sure I'm in ChatGPT 4, and now I'm going to get typing out this phase 4, part 3, step 1. So I have in my mission here, I am telling ChatGPT to respond with yes and nothing else if it's properly gathered the information that we are trying to get across here. And then we can move on to step 2 here. So I'm going to send this off, and if ChatGPT understood this, it should reply with yes, as it did. So now I tell ChatGPT, now that you've read the style of cold email that works well for me, act as a professional email marketer. So once again, we go into the system functions. I don't need to read these again. You've heard me say this probably about 10 or 20 times today. So act as a professional email marketer and web designer. and then we get into our mission. We want an email that's going to get a 22% reply rate. And now this is where the fun part and the customization of your outputs really come into play. We are telling it to use these components in order to create the cold email. And now we have the 5 components here that we generated from step 1 in phase 4, the analyzing components section. So we have subject line, personalization, value proposition, call to actions, and professional closing. And the information to the right of that is all of the custom information that we generated in the table. So this is one of the value propositions from that table that we generated. And this is one of the professional closings from the table that we generated. So this is all information we are using generated by ChatGPT. And then at the bottom here, this part is very important. This is where even more personalization comes in. Now, if you have a new company that you're working for, or if you have anything, you just want to provide that information to ChatGPT so it can fill in this bracketed information, like first name, for example, right there, with the proper information needed in order to make this cold email ready to send off. So what I say is, here's some more information to better write this email. So I'm just going to put this in blue for context. My name is Drake and I work for a website design agency called Humways. The person I'm sending this email to is named John. So maybe each time you have a new client or each time you have a new cold email campaign that's going on, what you could do is you could give some more information to who this cold email is actually going to. So John runs a landscaping company called ABC Company, okay? So now ChatGPT knows who I am, who I work for, what field of work I'm in. Also, it knows the person I'm sending this email to and what he does for work, and also the name of John's company. So we've given ChatGPT all the context that we possibly could. Now let's actually get this into ChatGPT and let me show you how you can start creating multiple segments of writing using data that you generated from the table. So once again, we are staying in the second thread. We want to keep on going within the same thread after ChatGPT has said yes. And we have our table full of information ready to copy and paste into this thread here. So now we have our response ready to go and all typed out within ChatGPT. So we have that information that I was showing you earlier at the top of phase 4 part 3 within the prompt priming structure. And now we have all of this information here that we need to fill out from data in our table. So right now we need a custom subject line, personalization, value proposition, call to actions, and professional closing. And this is really going to help us customize those cold emails. So for subject line, what I can do is I can head back over here to the table, and now I can look through all these 10 subject lines that might work well. And remember, all of this information was generated based on the email that already worked well. So even minor tweaks to your subject line, changing a few words around, can really increase reply rate. Not just subject line, but with everything. So this is a great method for creating new cold emails and split testing what's already worked well. And I know I keep saying for just cold emails, but this works well for literally anything. This is a great method for split testing anything you do, or just creating new content in a similar style that you like. So maybe for subject line here, I look through these and I want to generate a cold email with this subject line, stand out in your local market. What I'm going to do is hover over that and copy it with Control C. And then over in my new tab here that I have this email typed out for subject line, I'm going to paste it in with Control V. So now the subject line will say, stand out in your local market. Now we can look through personalization and we can find a good personalized line. For example, this one right here, recipient's name, we admire your work in. I can hit Control C. Now I can head back over here, and for personalization, I can paste that in. And now I can do the same for these 3. So now I have all of this information typed out, which is very nice. So this email is really going to be customized. I've given the man who runs the company I'm sending this email to, I've given his company name, I've given ChatGPT who I am. So it now understands when it says your name, it'll actually input that information for me. So this is actually the funnest part of this prompt priming process. We are on the last step and we can now start customizing our emails or our writing that we are trying to get customized. So I'm going to send this message off. And as you can see, for subject line, we put stand out in your local market, and ChatGPT actually customizes the subject a little bit more. So stand out in your local market with ABC Company, and ABC Company is John's landscaping company here. And now all the information where we had these empty brackets in the previous email has been filled in with customized information to our sender. And this whole email has been formulated to perform well. And as I see here, it says your contact information in brackets below. So maybe I could even add my contact information in this section when I'm describing who I am and the clients that I am trying to receive. Now, the beautiful thing about this is once you have all of this stuff done and you have your table open in another tab, you can just keep on creating new cold emails. And you can do so by hitting this little box with the pencil right here. When I hit this, I can now edit this prompt and I can type in new information in all of these sections. So let me do that real quick. Okay, so I've now pasted in professional closing. And now that I have new information in here, this email isn't going to disappear when I hit save and submit. I'm just going to hit save and submit. And now we have a little carousel of all of the emails that we have created using different customized information. And so it replaces subject lines and personalization, value propositions, call to actions, professional closings, and you can do this with as many components as you want. You don't have to stop at 5 components within your table. You could do 10 or 20 components. You might have to hit continue generating because the tokens would probably be maxed out, but you can really create as many rows in this table as you want, get as much information as you want. What you can do also is that when you are providing this context, you can say, here are 3 examples of blog posts that worked well, cold emails that worked well, comedy scripts that worked well. And then you can give ChatGPT 3 examples to work off of instead of just basing it on one example. But now, as you can see here, we have 2 responses. So I can kind of just scroll through here. I can copy and paste these emails. I can go over here. Maybe next time when I want to edit it, I can hit edit. And let's say I want to send it to a different person named Jane. And maybe Jane runs a makeup company called Makeup for Life. I don't know, just thought of that information off the top of my head, so I'm sorry. It's a pretty poor example, but now we can even change this information here, and I can change the company I work for. I can change the name right here. So maybe if you have a sales executive or someone who works well in sales, you can replace that information with them. You know, say, hey, I generated some cold emails for you. They would probably think you did a lot of work. So now when I hit save and submit, if I leave all the personalization the same, as you can see, it replaces that customized information with the person's name that is meant to be there. So make Makeup for Your Life's website your best asset. So it uses that custom company name that we input down here. And it also uses the name personalization here. And I like this because you can really customize it to your liking. So now we can scroll through here and see all the emails that we've generated. We can copy and paste them into our email marketing software and so on. So like I said beforehand, this does not only have to be used with cold emails. And I know I keep stressing that, but I feel like I should when I show this one example of me doing it with only cold emails. But you can really test this out and do it with pretty much any use case that requires writing. I've seen a guy do it with a comedy stand-up skit. You should actually check him out. I learned a lot about prompt priming from him. So his name is Lawton Solutions on YouTube. Again, that's Lawton Solutions. I recommend you check him out. He did it on a comedy skit, and it's very interesting to see the different takes of prompt priming and the different use cases that can be used with prompt priming. So this has been the 4-phase prompt priming method, and I know this was a little bit longer of a video, but I hope that you can use some of these methodologies that I've taught you, whether that's just using phase 3 or maybe using a combination of phase 2 and phase 3, or going all the way and using phase 4 where you're actually creating your own database of components that you can use based on something that's already worked well or a style that you like. I hope that you can use this to your advantage, and let me know in the group some of your use cases for prompt priming. I would love to know, and I would actually love to try them out myself. I'm always willing to learn and try new things, so let me know in the group. Send me a quick message, and I would love to hear that. With that being said, this has been Prompt Priming, and I will see you within the next module.